That's an easy one. I was the grandchild and child of two lawyers, and I'm proud to say I am now the father of the fourth member of our firm. And it never occurred to me growing up that I would do anything else. That's sort of what people in our family did.
I had for some reason, a strong affinity to the university. And of course, by the way, I'm a huge Razorback football fan. Might have had something to do with it.
I had heard that because it was a very small professional group back then, it was very important to go to law school at the University of Arkansas for those connections and the fact that you would know the people that you were going to be practicing law against.
It was a natural choice for me to go to law school in Fayetteville. And when I graduated in 70, tuition for a semester was $150. Now, to put that in perspective, a brand new Chevrolet Caprice in 69 was $4,800. My dad bought one for $3,800. So that kind of shows you how prices have gone up. But going to school at the University of Arkansas and the law school was indeed a bargain for a quality education, and it still is today.
I have distinct memories of the fall of 1968, which was my first year, which was, a real crash course in what Arkansas politics could be like, because we had Richard Nixon against Hubert Humphrey. We were busy paying attention to what was happening in the election that year.
The Vietnam War was raging, and all men were subject to selective service in the draft. The law school itself is stressful. In undergraduate school, okay, you make an A on a test or you made a C, it averages out. In law school, you never know what you're going to get until you go through the whole semester, and something the professor may have said the very first day may be an issue that's on that exam.
Culture-wise, it was kind of a mod sort of time, I guess, flowered shirts and bell-bottom pants.
I thought it was frankly a wonderful time. The school was still small enough that you virtually knew everyone there. You had great rapport with the other students and, more importantly, with the instructors.
There was one other woman in my class. But, to me, it was an adventure. I was admitted to go on a part-time basis. We only had one bathroom for women in 64, and that's right across the hall from where the dean's office was, because the women were all secretaries, and there was no place to sit down. And so when I would get really sick from heat, they finally got me a folding cot to put in there. So I made some waves at the law school. So maybe that's why they made women be serious. I wasn't serious enough. I was worried about things like pregnancy and heat and stuff like that.
I had a lot of professors had a profound impact on my life, personally as well as professionally. But boy, Bill Copeland, David Newbern, obviously Dr. Leffler.
Mort Gittleman was a person that I admired a lot and learned from.
Dr. Robert A. Leffler was the principal one, but Professor Whitty as well was another classic professor.
The one who stands out most as an influential professor for me was Fred Stevens.
Oh, well, Dr. Robert Leffler, definitely. That was my first class.
Al Whitty, who became my lifelong friend. Same thing with Ray Guzman.
Al Whitty, I still quote him from time to time.
Dr. Robert A. Leffler was just an amazing professor. The one, though, that was, I guess, a real sport model, I would say, back then was Al Whitty. And Al Whitty was, I think, dearly loved and revered by all, but he also was very much feared. And he would walk into the classroom, so he would have his glasses down, a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he'd look around and says, "Where the hell are we? Does anybody care?" And then we'd go from there. Then he'd ask a question. If someone didn't give him the answer he liked, he'd say, "Kids in the street know that. My grandmother told me when I was 5 years old. Next question." Nobody asked a question.
My favorite teachers were Al Whitty and Ray Guzman.
We all had Dr. Robert Leffler, and it was absolutely the most wonderful experience I've ever had in my life. It was terrifying. It was fun. It was exciting. It was just incredible to be in his presence.
Al Whitty was a very intimidating professor. He could literally eviscerate you with his words.
Above and beyond all was Albert M. Whitty.
It was just unbelievable. You always enjoyed his class. You never wanted to miss.
Another person that really was a big influence on me, and I love him, was Al Whitty. He was one of my favorites. Mort Gittleman was a very big influence on me.
Mort Gittleman teaching me constitutional law, Charlie Carnes teaching me corporate law. And it was a family.
Oh, well, of course, the first one was Dr. Leffler, and he was very nice. I had a number of very good law professors. It's kind of hard to say one over another. Al Whitty was another one. Interesting enough, because I was practicing full time and took emergency call at the hospital, I didn't always have my preparation up like I should, but they never called on me. And I don't think I ever got called on while I was in law school. So that was a gift to me from them, I guess. But I was able to pass.
And anyone who ever had Dr. Leffler would have to include him among the most memorable people. Dr. Leffler taught freshman torts, and he always started his class by looking at a little black notebook that he carried with him. No one was sure what was in the notebook, but you didn't want him to be looking at you while he was writing in it.
In Fayetteville, in the 60s, oh yes, we had Deluxe.
Deluxe, Georgia's Majestic Lounge.
We had Rogers Recreation.
Between classes, and sometimes when we were not in the mood, skipping classes, we'd spend a lot of hours at the Baptist Student Union, which was across the street, where you didn't have to be a Baptist to play ping pong.
We had the Huddle Club.
Maxine's Tap Room was a favorite of certain class of students that included me.
We had Maxine's.
You know, people during the day at least hung out in the lobby. It was kind of a lounge there in the first floor.
We had the Rockwood Club.
Back then, there was one place that was called the Deluxe.
Moon 71 Club. There were many, many nice places to go visit on the weekends. If you didn't see anybody out on the weekends in Fayetteville in that era, they weren't trying.
Ray Guzman was so important. In the summer of '68, after my first year, he had some money to hire a few of us to spend time with the inmates on death row at Tucker Prison to see if we could help him develop habeas corpus cases to get some of those people off death row. And that experience at Tucker Prison made me much more interested in the individuals who were coming before the law.
The law is the essence of what I do. So it was tremendous influence, and I wouldn't be here without it for sure.
The law school shaped me personally by making me understand that if I persevered and I listened and I just kept on keeping on, that I could accomplish something.
I really wasn't interested in ever practicing law. I was interested in more the background that law gave me, and I was interested in politics. And I do remember one time when I was presenting a bill in the Senate, one of the senators came walking down to me and said, "What are you doing here, doctor, talking about this bill? This is about law. What do you know about law?" And I said, "I'm a member of the bar." And he said, "Oh," so he didn't say any more.
It shaped me as a person because it taught you, it forced you, it required you to think like an attorney.
Here I am 50 years later, and any success I have started from the education I received at the University of Arkansas and at the School of Law.
Possibly Al Whitty's admonition, don't leave your common sense at the law school door. And the other was, be ready to have the way you look at the world changed.
Words matter.
It's not so much a lesson as it is an introduction to a way to view the world. We think a little differently from a lot of other folks as lawyers.
My first day in law school and classes, I could sense that there would really be no spoon feeding, so to speak. And I caught on to that. You're on your own.
I remember our first class was contracts, and it was with Al Whitty. And back then, you got the assignment off of the bulletin board out in the lobby. So it was like read the first 100 pages. So, you read it like you're just reading 100 pages of a book. And we get in there and he starts asking questions, and we're not giving the right responses. I guess we're all half scared anyway. And he goes over to the wall and he beats his head against the wall. You didn't dare laugh because you knew it was a big act. And then he would turn around and say, okay, now I know you all know how to read because you're here. He says, now I want you to go home and read the next 100 pages. And if you can't read them, you have your wife read them, you have your roommate read them, you have your friend read them, and come back and be prepared the next day. And that's when I thought, okay, this guy's going to be kind of serious because he started off being kind of friendly, but really he expects a lot out of you.
It was not paper chase, but it seemed like that to me. Al Whitty was a snappy dresser and a snappy personality, so we weren't real sure what to make of him. Ray Guzman was too cool for school, so we all didn't know what to think about him. And Dr. Leffler came into class and went, and that scared the daylights out of all of us.
I truly enjoyed the lobby area where one of our class members operated a little coffee and donut concession. And it was important to arrive a bit early and get a cup of coffee and a donut and visit with others sitting around in the lounge. Without pointing to an individual day, that hangs out in my memory.
Recently deceased Bobby Odom had a coffee concession in the lobby.
Sometimes we misuse the student lounge in the old law building there to arrange golf games for the afternoon.
We had a lot of gatherings of friends, many of whom are still good friends, that have parties watching the Hogs play.
We had May Day festivities, and we'd always have a big party out at the rink, and the students would put on skits, and all the faculty was there. And there they were up there making fun and lambasting every professor, I guess, that we had.
The favorite memory I have was we always had this kind of a social parody get together, and they were the Mighty Witty Players. And it was just a bunch of satire and parody about the students and the professors at that time.
The Mighty Witty Art Players.
The highlight of highlights was that I was a member of the Mighty Witty Art Players, where we insulted and lampooned the remainder of the faculty.
I only got to perform my first year, and I have no talent. I can't sing at all, not a lick. I really can't act. I was in one play in college, and they asked me not to come back.
There are several things that make me laugh during my time in law school. I have to laugh at myself, at my abject ignorance at times and stupid comments that I would make. And the only thing that saves me is I think most everyone else except the late Vince Foster fell victim to that as well. Vince never made a statement that wasn't well thought out, well articulated, and very bright.
Well, I think graduating.
To have the school make a special effort to recognize us and to try to capture a little bit of what we can share that may be of use to others, I think is something that I personally appreciate, and I'm sure that a lot of people will appreciate it.
I was blessed to go to law school with a lot of special people. And they've all been special in my life in Arkansas and when I wasn't in Arkansas. They've led the law. They've been president of the bar. They've been on the Supreme Court and the circuit courts. Used to have chancery courts, the chancery courts, the first drug courts. Those are people in my class taking those positions and setting the bar.
Do as much as you can for as many as you can for ever long as you can. I guess that's what Ann and I grew up with, and we've had a lot of opportunities, and we tried to do as much as we could.
I had been telling my two daughters that this day certifies that I'm now officially old.
So we're sitting there thinking, what have we gotten ourselves into?